Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the Purple Rain. I am, of course, joined by the illustrious Andrew McDougall, who we will get to in a second, but remiss of me not to mention our big sponsors in DR Travels, Bloom Real Estate and Sonam Capital. It is a very exciting time, and as a Fremantle sort of Dockers supporter, one of the big things for me is draft period. And draft period, it's our time to shine. There's hope. It's eternal joy. It's all this sort of stuff. And that's why we've got none other than Dukes to come on the pod and actually set us straight, because nuffies like me sometimes just don't have a clue. And so we need a little bit of intelligence here, mate. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Oz. Thanks for having me in, mate. I'm very excited to be here. My wife and father-in-law are big fans of the pod.
Shout out.
And yeah, it's always good to catch up with you, mate. And I don't think you should put yourself in the nuffy category, because you're a star and you know your stuff and you know all your Freo stuff. You're on fire, mate. And I enjoy listening to your pod.
All right, so mate, thank you very much, and I'll give you the money later for saying that. So how are we going to break? So how are we going to break down the pod? And normally Duck would be running this show. He's the man, the myth, the legend, but he's living the dream in Katanning right now, and with his new fam. And I tell you what, it's really surreal to sort of see the great man live the dream as a father second time around, which is great. So shout out to him and fam. They're at the Katanning show right now. They're probably
beautiful.
putting away a fair amount of. I did ask for him to bring back some goodies, because I'm a bakery fiend. I love a good sausage roll.
Well, that's not going to go
Something
well in terms of, I've put Duck's resume in for assistant coach. So if he gets a call and he's out of range, then
All righty. So, look, how are we going to break this down, guys? We've got three key things really to fire up about today. We're going to be looking at the draft and some changes to the draft and how that affects basically the AFL landscape itself, but also where Freo sits in terms of its picks. Also, we'll be looking at WA prospects, and as a key player agent, Dukes is going to be helping us out with some names that haven't really been thrown up, and not a surprise that, of course, the Vic-centric media never really give enough love to the Western Australian hopefuls, and you're here to rectify that, and I might put my AC hat on and try and pump up a couple of local boys. But through the whole thing, we'll be looking at the draft, the WA hopefuls. We'll also look at Freo's trade period as well, and what the trade-in actually means for our list, and perhaps look at a couple of needs, if any, in those areas. And then we're going to finish off with a little bit of nostalgia. And this is the exciting one for me, and this is to actually have a draft. Well, it's which team comes out on top between the 2013 Grand Final Fremantle Dockers and the most recent finalists when they played the Gold Coast, with a couple of late outs, but we might talk about that, and we are going to nut that out and argue that. I'm pretty excited about that.
I'm excited for that one. It's going to be a good topic and good debate. Broken it down into forwards, mids, backs, and that. And
you've done a fair amount of research.
A little bit of research.
I'm concerned with the volume of notes you got here.
Well, I did write a novel trying to get here, but cut it down.
I do want to put it out there that I have yet to see a replay of the 2013 Grand Final. I refuse to watch it. I also refuse to look at stats related to the 2013 Grand Final. I know what I saw live, and it's burnt into my memory. Although there's passages of the third quarter I don't remember. Shout out, bro. How you going? But I am reliving that today. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Heal the wounds. It's cathartic. All right, so let's get started, mate. So we're going to get straight away into the draft for 2025. And one of the things that has actually changed in the landscape has been a bit of a revisit to the draft value index. And of course, how that actually works is pretty important to understand how teams have sort of positioned themselves this year round, where in years gone by, teams have stockpiled picks in order to try and accumulate points, mainly to match on bids on academy players and father-sons. And let's be honest, it's been a bit of a rort, and teams have been able to get away with not paying market value And the idea behind this really is to sort of circumnavigate what has been the case. And so we've got a new system that basically only assigns points to the first 54 picks, which is well down from what it used to be, which is 73. So the first 54 picks only have assigned points. And that equates to about 10,000 fewer points in the system. And also, the big thing is that the discount for matching a bid is lowered from 20% to 10%. So, you could just say, oh, we'll back off a little bit and we'll be able to match and then, load up. So that has actually been pretty huge. And so I thought I might quickly throw to you on this one. And because given that, say, pick 1 is worth 3,000 points.
Yep.
And pick 2 is worth 2,481 roughly, right? So we get the idea. And it goes all the way up to the magical 54. And if you happen to be around pick number 54, you're worth 14 points. Okay, it's not a kick in the nuts, but it's pretty close. But anyway, so how does that affect potentially teams that have academy players or teams that have father-sons coming through?
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Oz. It's good. It's an interesting topic. It's changed consistently. There was the Jamari Ugle-Hayden being number 1. I think the Bulldogs had maybe picked 5 or 6 and, coming down to get a number 1 pick, and you've got the Ashcroft brothers. And over the years, I think the clubs obviously that don't get the number 1 pick are the ones that obviously upset, and AFL are trying to make it fairer all around and also not have the draft compromised as much as they can. But it also adds another lever for the clubs to train up their academy kids. So, Freo, West Coast and other clubs out there can train those academy players up. There's a certain amount of times that those players a year into the draft can come do weight sessions and training sessions, and they can get immersed in the club. And also it gives the club that first chance really to say, well, we've put time into them. They're under our system, and we'd like to bid on them, and they get that discounted 10% discount as well. So I think for a player, if in terms of an agent, when we're signing someone and they're an NGA player, it gives them that extra chance as well. Because if they're not going to be a main drafted player for a 2-year contract, they might hit that NGA rookie contract as well, or Cat B, like the Josh Drapers and those players that come on, and then you give them a bit of time in the system, and they can come on. And sometimes some players don't, but they've actually had that opportunity to. And probably prior to that, it was more, there was 4 rookie spots, NGA Category B spots, where you could get the basketballers in or the Irish players in, and there was more around that. But at the moment, they've trimmed that down a little bit. West Coast did get some exemptions this year, and they've got a few more academy players to choose from, and father-son in Charlie Banfield from Drew Banfield. But Freo have got Ryder Luke and Toby Wan as well. So there's most clubs will have 2 or 3.
Nice. And I think if you look at it, the outcry or the concern, I think, would be if you're a club that's investing all of your not all of your, if you're investing resources into trying to bring these players on, you're trying to do the right thing, but then you see them go and you feel like, hang on a second, we haven't really had the chance to fairly either bid on them, or we haven't had a chance to actually have them in our system outside of the training with the club, then the system's failed and it's broken, isn't it? So there has to be that fine line between, like, we don't want a super powerful academy whereby you are now set for life, like a la where you'd see Gold Coast kind of going at the moment. They got a lot of great academy picks and a lot of money going into their academy. And then by the same token, you don't want the flip side to that, which is players leaving and not being able to bid on them because they're so early and you don't have the picks to match it. And so, that's where we kind of sit. So there really isn't going to be, from my perspective, there isn't going to be a perfect way to deal with it, but it needs to be fairer. And I think what they're trying to do is essentially, particularly the father-sons, where, it's based on luck. Really, it's not than anything else. And if you look at, historically speaking, Carlton and Geelong have been very fortunate with father-sons. And the flip side to that is, St Kilda is a no-show with that. I think our first ever father-son we went to, I think might have been Riley, like a Riley son, who came in as sort of a lady sort of a pick for us, and that didn't work for us. But that's that's an attempt for us, but just didn't pan out. So we haven't got, I guess, we haven't got the pedigree over a long period of time to be able to do that. So, but what are your thoughts, like just in general with that?
I think it's almost lent the other way now. Like at the start, it was really great for NGA players and father sons to have that extra, chance to get in, and the clubs can put the time into them, and they can say, okay, because a lot of times NGA players weren't really expected to play in their first year.
Yep.
It was probably more, okay, we'll draft these kids. They need 2 or 3 years to develop. Let's put them on a Category B rookie list, and then we've got them. They come through our academy. But now if you go through like Sydney Academy, Brisbane Academy, Gold Coast Academy have got 3 in the top 30 this year. Sydney have got 2 in the top 30. The player at Brisbane, Dan Annable, he could be almost number 1, but yeah, they've got him rated. Some have got him rated at 4 or 5. So Brizzy going to get another really good player out of the academy. So you sort of don't want it to be, 60% academy players. Yep. Now it's almost gone from 20%, and it's just, I've just pulled that percentage out of the sky, but just sometimes I think there's maybe too many in total for all the AFL, because that's the thing with the list sizes now. You can have obviously 42, but you can have 36 and 6, or you can have 38 and 4 rookies, and that can be, there's flexibility in that, and they can move things around a lot. So you want to encourage, I think, 1 or 2 per club, but I suppose you also, if you see a really good player, they should be able to, they have to pay full value, or 10% discount's fine, but pay a value, and then take those younger Category B guys as rookie list players. Give them a chance.
And that, I think for me, I think back to how does the system ultimately work? And it's like, okay, well, right at the top end, so you've got West Coast that, that they can use pick 1, blah, blah, blah. But what if they decide to bid on deliberately, sequentially players that are at the top of the academy that other teams are going to pick? Is there any reason why they can't do that? And why wouldn't you do that, knowing that then other teams have to pay up? Yeah. Or is it just like it's a gentlemanly agreement?
There's a gentlemanly agreement a bit in the AFL with few clubs and relationships. So there's certain, there's a list manager that was potentially at Geelong, and now he's at Richmond, and his best mate's at Sydney, and he played football with him 30 years ago. And there's relationships like in any industry. So I think a lot of times, sometimes they do bid early and they go, okay, we want to make them pay full quota. Yep. And then other clubs will just say, oh, we're just going to let that one through. And they might even call earlier and say, look, we're going to let that go. But, if we've got something that, you could work with us on later next year, la, la, la. So I remember the Dacos situation, like there was clubs that didn't bid on him in the first 1 or 2, even though he was 1. But, Collingwood had good relationships with the list manager at I think it was GWS at the time. But yeah, it's a relationship thing, I think, at the end of the day, but also a gentlemanly agreement. Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that Hawthorn and Essendon probably have that gentlemanly agreement at this point in time. But it's just interesting, because I think in a cutthroat industry, at what point does that gentlemanly agreement become we're trying to win our first premiership?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think also if you really genuinely want the player, you probably will bid on him, as long as it's realistic, and you go, okay, we're going to bid on him, but we're going to take him, and we're happy to have him.
Yeah.
So there's probably a bit of both.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, all right, so let's get to it, because what we really want to do is talk about WA talent, mate. Yeah, that's what's at.
Let's do it.
If you want to listen to this pod and talk about Victorian talent on your bike, because that's not what we're here for today. I didn't bring in a Victorian manager here. So we're going to be talking about WA players, and the question is why? Because Fremantle have a whopping draft hand. If you sort of been sleeping under a rock, we've got picks 20, 47, the magical 69, 90, 103, and 108. Now, if that doesn't get you hot and heavy, I don't know what posts are we ever going to use 90, 103, 100. Anyway, but that's our pick. So let's have a look at the WA talent. Now, this is where your expertise comes in. Did a little bit of digging myself, but I tell you what, it's so Vic-centric. And
a lot of Vics, yeah.
A lot of Vics in there. But we've got a fair amount of WA talent. what you would probably see for those of you who sort of go through websites, you'd know that Jacob Farrow from West Perth is right up there, left foot, has been compared to Hayden Young. Whew, if you don't mind, that's, left footer, tall midfield defender. Also Jordan Dawson as a comparison comes in. Fred Rodriguez from South Fremantle has been given a sniff in terms of potentially being drafted according to pundits in the top 30. Thank you for putting him in there. And then Sam Swadling, again, West Perth. He's out at roughly around 36 is what they're saying, but could be a little higher. And then Toby Wan, who's a Fremantle NGA at 40, South Fremantle, 184 centimetres, which gets me up and about, but is a serious player. So they're the ones that you would normally see, but you've got a whole list of other guys that you can tell us about.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Like Jacob Farrell will be the first WA kid drafted. I think, like you said, people have got him rated around that 14 mark and so forth, but he could, with bids and things like that, he could potentially get to 20. So you have to wait and see. I think Leon Kickett, he's one that's really come out of nowhere. Leon, Tom Seckel at Corporate Sports, he manages Leon, and he's done a great job getting him on board. And Leon's got super talented player, exciting, electric. They call him Neon Leon, I think.
I love it.
So
love it.
He's a dynamite package. I think he could be the second picked out of WA, potentially third or second. You mentioned Swaddling there. Charlie Banfield, Drew Banfield's son. He's had a good back end of the year. He won the medal for the Colts, best and fairest at the grand final day. That was good, and he ran a 6:18 2K, I think it was. So that was huge by him. Toby Wan, the one you mentioned, NGA player, left footer, really good player. Tom looks after him. I've got Wes Wally, best name in the AFL.
Yeah, where is he? I mean, surely.
So Wes Wally.
If you're a club, you got to draft this guy. Yeah. The media possibilities, right?
It's endless.
It's endless.
He's such a good kid. He played league footy for Subi, and he was part of West Coast Academy, so he played a few league games for West Coast. Massive upside, a dynamite player. Ryder Luke kick 8 goals and a half for South Freo Colts. I haven't seen a guy do that for a long time. So he's pretty raw. He's NGA Freo. He's got a lot of upside. So hopefully, Freo look at him. And then you've got like a few of the West Coast NGA boys and Hudson Walker. Cody Curtin, I think, will probably go to Adelaide with your brother.
Yep.
But I don't know. But I'll be guessing. But
bring him back. Bring them both back,
There's a few names there. I think hopefully WA get sort of 10 to 12 drafted. I think Adam Jones has done a good job. He's with all the boys and he does a great job every year. Like he said, I think 8 to 12 that he thought. And it depends on bids. It depends on list sizes, list spots, like that flexibility. Like Freo might only have 2 main draft picks, or they might take 3. But then if they have 2, they have more rookies. If they have 3, then they have less rookies. So using that flexibility, and they probably don't know until the night, and they're watching the draft and see who's left and think, is he a guy we want to get on our main list, or can we take him as a rookie the next day?
Yep. So, and this is Wolsey's time to shine, because we all know the man's a genius.
He's very good.
He knows how to find a diamond in the rough, and I have complete faith in that. I still think that we probably only take 2. I don't know. It just depending on the list, because obviously there's elevations and so forth there as well. But if we were looking at Freo needs right now, like where would you see Freo going in terms of their first couple of picks, and who's around that mark?
Well, with also the trade, like they talk about trading for needs, and then Wolsey was chatting about, get the best talent at the draft. So even if it's probably not a specific positional need, Freo will take the best talent that's available. And that happened with Heath Chapman in his draft. So Chappie being a defender, Freo probably didn't need an exact defender, but Wolsey and the boys had him rated the highest at that pick. So when they got to, I think it was pick 14, like Chappie's number 1 there on our list, bang, they just called him out. And, they've got that flexibility to move him into the wing if they wanted, or half back, or can he play through the midfield like he did at the 18. So it seems to me like the way Freo were doing it, which I like and respect, is adding flexibility,
Mm.
and probably going to draft 2 players that they have really good talent, the top end talent that they can possibly get at that pick on the night. Whether that is a halfback, like McVee's obviously a need there, but how far above is he from the current backline? Because I think the current backline's very good, and also Brandon Walker, missed out a little opportunities this year, so I think McVee adds to it. But I also feel like the backline's pretty settled. It's a good side, but they're talking about can they play him in different spots as well. So I think having flexibility is a good way to look at it, because also you don't know through the whole season when you're having a flag tilt, finals tilt, flag tilt, like you go injuries. I think injuries are huge in every single team, whether it's Brizzy and the Lockie Neal and these type of things. Like you need a list, you need almost another 6 good players, depth players ready to go that can come in, and you don't go, oh, he's definitely a depth player. Like you got to look at that guy. Yep, he's coming straight in. It's all still smooth. The ship's running smooth. So I think also you got to draft for depth a little bit too, especially on the rookie list and towards the back end of the draft. But Wolsey's seem to hit some every time. Like he's, without blowing his head up, he with the big ego, but he's nailed some ones, like even Tracy, rookie, Voss, delisted player. He's got Freddie out the back. Also Switter, was Switter 60 or 70?
Yeah, around there, I think.
He's nailed it with the draft. Schultz was in the 60s, so he's done a good job. And then they've really drafted well early as well. So Hayden Young and Brayshaw Sarong, early picks. So
now on that, if I could just throw this to you, having worked with multiple clubs, obviously, whether it be contractually or in the lead up to regarding draft, is there a preference for clubs to, particularly West Australian clubs, to try and go Western Australian if they're comparable or close to the mark, and they'll go with a West Australian for the go home factor, or is that not really a thing?
I don't think they do, but I think they should, because obviously, like you just said, if you're from WA and you get picked by a WA team, you got your family around, you got the support straight away in your first 1 or 2 years, because you're only 18, 19, like you just come out of school. You still got so much to learn off field as well. So, yeah, clubs back themselves in because they do have so many resources, and that's why clubs don't mind drafting anyone from anywhere because, clubs have got sometimes up to 100 staff, full-time staff that covers all areas, but, 2 or 3 welfare officers, physios and strength and conditioning guys and 12 coaches, and they've got resources, abundance of resources. And Fremantle do a great job with AJ Diamond too. So there's a really good support network for the corporate partners as well out there with Freo's group. And I'm sure other clubs have a similar model, but Freo's ones, met a few of those guys are really good guys and want the best for the players and the club. So I think, each club's, wherever they draft them, they'll back them in that their network can support that. And that's what they do when they interview the kids in the lead up to the draft. So we've got a lot of players that have interviews with clubs, and the clubs will give us feedback on the player. So they'll say, we had a player once and he said, red flag on moving away. And we said, oh, why is that? And the red flag was about not necessarily the player, but it felt more around the family. So there were certain things where, and that's what they identified. So they thought could be someone who wants to come home eventually, based on certain things that they analysed. So, every player that they speak to in the lead up to the draft, over the draft camp, the combine stuff early, and then home visits, they'll get a read of, is this kid available to, mature enough to move, and could we back ourselves in? And, they bring the welfare officers over and things like that. So I think they do a stack of research on all the boys, but they do back themselves in.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to know the pool on WA players, full stop, because I think it's not just about what you see at State 18 level, for example, because case in point, so I've just joined the school in which I'm teaching at the moment, and back in the PSA system. And it was interesting. I went down to watch the first play. I think it was like their second fixture or something like that, and they happened to be down Memorial. And anyway, they're playing away, and this random guy I'd never met in my life, he just came over to me, and obviously I look like I was, working there or a teacher or whatever. I must have that head. And he said to me, he's like, "Oh, so who am I looking out for?" What do you mean, who are you looking at? He goes, "Well, I'm here to scout some players." I'm like, "Mate, that's your job.
Yeah.
That's what you've got to do." And then I sort of got into a conversation, and then he sort of said, "Yeah, I'm here for blah 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 blah." And then
For an AFL club.
for an AFL club,
Yep.
and it's interesting to know that AFL clubs at that point already have their fingers in pies, and they have people who live in WA who are, I guess, they would be casual employees. I don't know how that works, who just go out and look. So there is actually the ability to find diamonds in the rough outside of the State 18 comp, which is clearly the top tier and what you're going to be seen by most scouts. But you've also got this other stuff that's being fed through as well.
Definitely.
And I think going back to what you're saying about, the family and the go home factor and all that sort of stuff, I think that's WA boys don't necessarily seem to have that sort of pull necessarily, unless there's a real push for a top end player to come home. They're not getting any sort of action. It seems to be more the particularly the Vic Metro boys. They're the ones that seem to want to go. I think historically, and I could be out of turn, but historically, when Freo pick up South Australian boys, they tend to stay. Like we've got a pretty good record of South Australian kids stay. I mean, Pav, greatest example of all time. Coxie, another good example. And it's more, I think that the country boys probably are more used to boarding. And I've, sort of getting my head around that this year and seeing how the boys work and, boarding and all that sort of stuff. Once you get used to that lifestyle, then you get, it's not so much of a big thing, but if you're a city boy, and Adam Cherry is probably a great example of that, wanted to go home and see mum and sort of play with his He-Man toys. But I think, the reality of of where you're drafting, I think I personally would love to see WA talent probably pumped up a little bit more in that space and giving that opportunity, because I think you play better in front of family and friends.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to see that.
And it's just, that's just sort of my opinion. All right, so if I was to put you on the spot here, mate, I want you to give me the first 3 WA boys that get called out and where you think they might be going. This is a left field question that I did not ask, and I'm putting you on the spot deliberately here.
I think the first will be Jacob Farrow out of West Perth. Played some good league footy, good left, clean, classy player. He'll go the first pick out of WA. Where he'll go, he could get to Freo, like mentioned before, but I'm not too sure. So I don't really know where he'll go. But Leon Kickett, I think, will be second. I'm backing him in for second. Obviously, dynamic player. He'd be, good at most clubs. That's that small, crafty forward. Yeah.
So if that's like, just to jump in, like with Freo, out of the 2, fitting for need.
Yeah.
Like obviously, big body, Hayden Young. Hello, great.
Yep.
But geez, that crafty small mid. Small forward. Sorry, we really found out, which is what we're going to argue about later on when we talk about Switter being out and the cost of Switter being out for that final.
Yep.
Would that be a real asset for Freo?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. And it seems like some clubs, remember Richmond during their premiership window where they just had Rewalt and there was 5 other small crafty forwards. Like there was just the one key and mosquito fleet, I think they called it. But it was like all these guys can tackle, can chase, have got speed and goal sense and can kick goals. So 5 was probably what they went with. And I think most clubs are using at least 3.
Yep.
Maybe 4, so having the 2 keys and the 4 around them. But you can't have enough of those crafty type of players that can tackle, chase, put pressure on. And with the speed of the game going up every year, it would increase by 10% every year. The speed, the running power, the back and forth, the agility. So all the testing they do at the combine is why they do that for things like this. But players like that are just, you can't, you just need them on your list.
Yeah, perfect. And the third person you think goes on the list?
Third, I'm going to say Toby Wan.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I'm going to say him. Freo.
Yep.
Freo NGA. Tom looks after him and he's done a great job with him. He's a good player, Toby Wan. I saw him in the 16s. I thought he was exceptional. I had him like in the top 20 for sure at the 16s. And yeah, I still think he's really, really valuable. Nice kick, quick, moves the ball well, ball in the middle, and could play on the wing as well. So he's a very good player.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear. Oh, very good. Okay. Oh, mate, that's that's the draft. It's summed up. It's where we're at. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said before, it's Freo's time to shine. It's as a supporter, it's always around this time that you get so optimistic. I mean, clearly we're going to make a grand final next year, in my opinion. But
Have you booked the bus?
I booked the bus.
Okay, nice.
The bus is booked. It's ready to go. I just need some mates to jump on with me. Discretionary leave. Shout out Rob. How you going? Discretionary leave. Just letting you know. Probably have to travel on the Friday. Maybe Thursday night to see the grand final parade. Anyway, but now that we've got that covered, I've been waiting for this. We are going to be looking at now. This is like so exciting for me. I want to have a look at the Freo 2025 finals team versus Gold Coast stacked up against the 2013 inaugural grand final Freo team that came so bloody close and on every freaking metric. I mean, every metric apparently should have won the game. And if you plug it into AI shits the bed because it doesn't understand why they lost the game. And yet, here we are without a premiership. So we're going to put the two teams together. Now, I'm going to give you've already prepared, right?
Well, I've just broken them into forwards
Yep.
for each year.
Yeah, okay.
Mids for each year and backs
Okay.
for each year. And just sort of like a little summary to say, yeah.
Okay, what do you think?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. But you lead the way.
Okay, so we're going to start with the Freo. We got to go respect. Respect. So the 2013 lineup, and shout out to whoever bought my MVP LeBron James jersey, his very first MVP jersey. Whoever bought that from me in order to fund me to go over there and blah, blah, blah. I hope you're really enjoying that jersey right now. Oh, boy. Anyway, the lineup is this. Backline, we have Spur, Dawson, and Duffield. Halfback, Johnson, McFarlane, and Sutcliffe, who I believe Sutcliffe might have got player of the finals, I believe.
Okay.
I believe.
Yep.
Then we've got Mundy, Barlow, and Hill running through the middle there on the wings as well. Stephen Hill, my God. And then half forward, we've got De Boer, Main, and Daniel Pearce, also known as Two More Years.
Mm-hmm.
Great soundtrack. I just haven't got it here. Then we've got forward line, we've got Ballantyne, Pavlich, and Walters. Very young Michael Walters. And then followers, we've got Sandilands, Fife in his prime, and Crowley. And Creepy Crowley was a well-renowned tagger, especially in that game against Geelong is outstanding. And then the interchange, we've got Mzungu, Clark, Subin, and Neil. And our emergencies on the day were Silvani, a keen fisherman, Hanneth, and Tommy Sheridan.
Yeah. Yep.
Also a spokesperson for Rick's Eyewear, I believe, at the moment. Tommy, it's a shout out there, mate. Feel free to send me some glasses. Now, what actually makes this sad in my book is that I think if Garrick Ibbotson plays this game and isn't injured, I think we win this grand final. I think he was that important to the side, but he was injured, as was Clancy Pearce, and Clancy Pearce was a driver of the footy as well. So that's the 2013 grand the lineup. Now on the day, mate, and this I'm being honest, mate. This is the first time I'm really looking at these stats in detail because I have avoided this since 2013. That's the depth of my scar tissue at this point in time. So Dave Mundy, 28 disposals, 8 tackles, 7 clearances, 628 meters gained. Absolute blinder of a game. And if anyone can't remember this, I think it was at the start of the second half where it goes Sandilands tap down to Mundy, lace out, bang, goal. It was just amazing. Nat 5 finished with 28 disposals with 3 marks, 6 tackles, 5 clearances, 244 meters gained. But he did kick that one out on the full there early on, but did have a killer game. Michael Barlow, many forget about Michael Barlow, who was, by the way, before he broke his leg, on Brownlow pace in previous seasons before. I think it was it Reece Palmer? I can't remember who went into him, but anyway, breaking his leg. But he got 23 disposals, 8 tackles, 4 clearances, 445 metres gained. Strong effort. Stephen Hill racked up 21 disposals. So silky smooth on that wing, which was great. Michael Johnson had a blunder. He got 20 disposals as well, 333 metres gained. Now, goal kickers very quickly. Who kicked goals for us? Matty Pavlich kicked 3 goals, 2. Michael Walters kicked 2 goals and a great sideways mark into Lake. I love that. That was the arrival of Michael's son Walters on the grand final stage. I knew that we would have something there. But we had behinds to Mundy, Fife, Barlow, Hill, 2 behinds to Crowley, 2 behinds to Ballantyne. Maney kicked a goal as well. Subin kicked behind, and that was really the game.
Yeah. You've listed some key highlights. There's some very good players, and I think you're right. I felt like Freo were the better team going in and deserved to get the flag. And it felt to me watching it was more of a skill execution. There was a breeze. It was windy. That missed a few goals early, and it was a momentum thing for a little bit as well in grand finals. It's a bit of luck. It's a bit of momentum. It's maybe a bit of belief in the last quarter, and it was close for a while as well. So the team on paper is unreal. But how do you compare it to this year's?
Now that's an interesting one. And again, going back to that game very quickly, I think it was one of the first times, if I'm not mistaken, that players weren't allowed to go out and do their normal sort of pre-warm-up. They kick for goal. So they really didn't come to grips on it because we didn't play the MCG all that often.
Yep.
So I didn't really on the day come to grips with where the wind was coming from and all that sort of stuff. And then some really weird sort of intricacies that happened, as they do. But all that stuff falls into power comparison at the end of the day when you don't win. But let's have a look at the most recent lineup.
Would you say also, Oz,
yes,
if the grand final was at Subi Oval,
100% they would have won.
They would have won.
Lock it in.
Lock it in.
That game against Sydney has got to be one of the most awe-inspiring defensive efforts I have ever seen from a football team. And whilst the scoreline didn't necessarily reflect the intensity and pressure, that throttling that Fremantle put on Sydney was next level. It was so good. Ferocious is the best word to use. All right, so the most recent final have wiped away the tears from this one. So we had, where are we here? So if we go across our back line, so Ryan, Cox and Pearce, halfback Chapman, Warner, Clark. Centre line, we had Amira, Bolton, Erasmus, half forwards, Dudley, Voss, Murphy, Reid. What a sensational first year by Murphy Reid, if you don't mind. Full forward, Jai Miss, Josh Tracy and Michael Frederick. Followers, Jackson, Sarong and Brayshaw. And our interchange, we had Hayden Young, Nathan O'Driscoll, Sean Darcy, Bailey Banfield, he's a fan of the show, and Nat Fyfe was the sub. And O'Driscoll and Dudley were in for this particular game. And the outs, which I think, that the key out, which really cost Freo through no fault of his own, was Sam Switkowski.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of comparison there with key outs. You know what I mean? And you talk about having your best team. And Corey Wagner as well, he gave us so much drive as well, was injured too. And it was Jager's 200 game as well. So if you look at that, obviously the game's evolved. Caleb Sarong had an absolute banger, 35 disposals, 9 tackles, 13 clearances, 702 metres gained. Not sure how much more he could do than what he did. Andy Brayshaw had another fantastic game. He really did come along. 32 disposals, 6 clearances, 570 metres gained, 6 tackles, tackler on fire. Hayden Young, who probably, if we had the consistency of Hayden Young throughout the year, I think that makes a massive difference. But, just battling that injury and then coming good and then trying to get that run of form, 28 disposals, and 522 metres gained, and he only had 74% time on ground. So imagine him up in the 80s, which would be elite. And then if we look at our goal kickers, Paddy Voss, who just has been a revelation in that forward line, kicks 3 goals straight, which is awesome.
That first goal,
Oh.
when he kicked that goal and then he ran 100 metres fast to the bench with the, both arms up?
Both arms.
One?
Both
arms up.
Yeah.
That just got the crowd up and going. That
Mate, I was ready
so
to run
good.
downstairs from the media
That
box. I
was
was about
so
to
good.
go down there and high-five him. So, mate,
He
dap him up.
He plays like every Dockers fan would. If you could say to a Dockers fan, sit back and you can come on the field for 5 minutes.
Yep.
That's what they do as a celebration.
Yeah. You know, there's like this saying where like if a guy is an absolute ripper bloke, then he's got confidence, and that confidence should therefore flow onto your kicking and all that sort of stuff. Like I honestly believe that's the case with him. He's such a ripper bloke, but he's also got confidence in himself, and he's now transformed that over to, and then we're now starting to see that consistency.
I like it that he's backing it up too now, because there was a bit at the start, there was a lot of swagger, which is great to see, but then he was still kicking it. He was still nailing those goals, still getting the 3 goals, celebrating, putting the ball on opposition's face, but he'd go back and kick it. So,
and it's so odd.
You need to.
It's odd as a Freo supporter. It's odd to see someone do that in Freo. Like, I just try to think the last guy that I can think of that to have that sort of swag, like difference between pure class in Sonny Walters and pure class in Pav, is probably Ballas. Like to have that
a little bit
tenacious sort of, but to degaff the opposition, you know what I mean? Like just and just to give it to them. I mean, that Scarlet goal.
So good.
Sell me, mate. That's just fantastic. So Vossi kicks 3, Dudley kicked 2. And we also had 2 goals to Josh Tracy. And then we had a bunch of 1 goals, 1. So Murphy Reid, 1 goal, 1. Luke Jackson, 1 goal, 1. Raz kick 1, which was great to see. You know I love Raz, mate.
You do love Raz.
I do love Raz.
He's had a good back of the year.
Good back of the year.
Matty Johnson. He was one that you left out.
Yes,
Matty, my boy
actually,
Matty.
yes.
He's going to be a star next year.
Okay.
He's ready to go. Big body mid.
Side,
Give him a little bit of mid time.
Can I just go side note on this?
Side note. Let's go.
Side note. People criticise me for my love of Matty Johnson. Matty Johnson, as a young tacker, and his body is so important for that midfield.
Definitely.
And I think people look at the small things, like when he gets caught. Like, I understand there are certainties in life, death, taxes, and Jono getting caught holding the ball. I understand, like, you'll get one holding the ball, right?
Not next year.
You got to look past that, because the dude is building the strength at the moment through your hips, through those big ass hips of his. Like, he's getting the strength, he's getting big, he's hitting the gym, he's pumping weights and eating cakes. He's taking a leaf out of your book, mate. You're looking pretty prime.
He's 194.
Yeah.
193 and 194.
Mate,
big,
you
tall,
don't get any smaller as you go through the game.
And I think because he's done well on the wing, they've sort of let him play that wing role, which he plays well. But I'd love him to see him be the 4th mid to come in. You're not going to move, obviously, Hayden Young, Brayshaw and Sarong.
Correct.
But that rotation, the guy that comes in, come off the wing.
Yes.
Give him 5 or 10 minutes, bigger bodied.
Yes.
Let's play. If Duck gets that job.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
You know, this is a bit of Matty Johnson. I love Matty Johnson.
Beautiful.
I love Matty Johnson. Good skills. Still remember when I bumped into you, funny enough, at the Mighty Perth Demons. Shout out Mighty Perth Demons. How we doing? Good to see them in the finals, by the way.
They got the finals.
Yeah, got
Big Stoney.
Yep.
Stonefisher's looking after them, and Barra.
Mate, looking good.
They're going to be
looking very good. When the 18s were playing South Australia, and I think you were down there. I think down there with Sexy as well. He was doing some other people, blah, blah, blah. But I saw Matty Johnson in this passage where he's sort of just Rolls Royced it through the middle. Like, he's just sidestepped. He's got this lateral movement. And being a basketball coach, lateral movement is so important. And I just saw this, and he just created this time and just delivered it on the boob.
And he's got a beautiful kick. But that's the thing with the Freo midfield we talk about, and you speak to old Freo fans that have been there for 20 plus years. They love the Mundy's the guy, right? Mundy's the clean takeaway from the midfield, lace him out. And I think Matty Johnson could transition into that guy if they just give him a bit more time in the midfield, just to have a go at it for 10 games.
I love it.
That's
I love it. I love the fact that we've just spent 5 minutes
Matty.
talking about Matty Johnson. Love you, mate. There we go. Now, okay, so Let's compare the two.
Yep.
You've got your notes here. I've got my notes. I'm going to talk about who I think wins. You're going to do the same. I'm going to throw to you. Go.
Nice. Well, the way I've looked at it is, if we're talking about forwards, right? So you broke down the teams. Tracy and Pav. Pav is still the goat of Freo. There's no one better than the Pav. But what do you think would be better out of Pav and Maney, and they've got De Boer here.
Yep.
Versus Tracy, Voss, Amos. Like who are you taking there? You can only take 3.
Well, Pav is demigod, so
Yep.
I'm taking Pav any day of the week.
Yep.
If there's a team with Pav in it, I'm taking it. But if you're comparing the two, Josh Tracy, for me, is just becoming that guy.
He's becoming the guy.
Okay, it would be blasphemous to go Tracy is on the level of Pav at the moment, because clearly that's unfair.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm taking Pav. So we've got, who else was there? Matt De Boer, and
but in terms of a 3, right?
The
so
3.
you have to take the 3 of 1. So you can take Pavlich, Main, and De Boer, or you can take Tracy, Voss, and Amos. So modern versus the 2013.
I still got to go Pav and Maney. And Maney at the time was kicking straight.
Yep.
And the game plan hadn't changed, which basically evolved into less touches for Maney. And so that meant more pressure on kicking, which I then think led to some more inaccuracy. Whereas I think around this time he was actually getting the right amount of touches and shots on goal. So I'm going to take Freo there. So that's a tick for me. I'm going to take the Freo forwards.
And then, so what about the small? So you got Ballas,
Yep,
Sonny, and D. Pierce.
Yep.
Those 3 versus Freddie, Murphy, Reed, and Dudley.
Yeah, I'm taking Ballas, Sonny. Now I know D. Pierce will probably kick it out in the full, but I'm going Ballas and Sonny.
Okay.
That's
hard to beat.
Prime Ballas, mate. I think Ballas is so underrated as a pressure forward. He gets a lot of grief. I think from other supporters because he was in the niggle, but he was so important for us. So good as well. And I loved him. So yeah, I'm going to go tick on that. So I'm going 2013 on that one.
Okay, I agree with you on that one.
Yep.
Then we're going into the midfield.
Yes.
So you've got 2013. So Mundy.
Yep.
Fife.
Yep.
And Barlow.
Oof.
Okay. V. Bolton.
Yep.
Sarong. And Young.
Ooh. Well, I think in terms of delivery, Mundy versus Young, like there's almost a comparison, but Mundy, come on now. Mundy's gold. But I think the bigger bodies there would have to win out. I think that's a bit of an Achilles heel for Freo at the moment is you put time into Caleb Sarong and force Andy to beat you by foot. And we struggle because the bigger bodies aren't there, which is why I think Matty Johnson's going to be such an important thing for us. Go back to Matty Johnson. But what are your thoughts?
I'm going 2013 on that one.
Yep.
Just with exactly what you said. The Mundy's just under Pav level, but a superstar in his own right. And I think Fife at his prime. And then you got Barlow, big body, ran hard.
Yep.
He was getting the ball in the right spots, and he worked hard through the midfield, a bit of a bull in there. So I'm going 2013 on that one.
Yep.
And then you got the backs, right? So the talls.
Yes.
McFarlane, Johnson, Dawson versus Pierce, Ryan, Cox.
So McFarlane, Dawson.
Michael Johnson.
Oh, you got MJ in there.
MJ in there. I've just manipulated this.
Okay, you manipulated that. I like what you're doing here because you're putting me under pressure.
I'm just putting you under the quick response.
MJ and McFarlane. Got to go MJ McFarlane. And you can put up with the third there.
Yep.
And that's no disrespect because I think that back line of did you say Pierce, Cox and Ryan?
Pierce, Cox and Ryan.
Yeah.
Is very good as well. But I think
good.
McFarlane and Johnson hard to beat.
Nah. You're not going to to be fair to that, they're all timers. They're all time in the pantheon, as Duck refers to on many occasions. All right, yep. So I've got 2013.
Okay, so you got the smalls.
Yep.
So we've got Duffield.
Yep.
Who was unbelievable out of the back line there.
Yes.
Sutcliffe and Spur versus Clark, Chapman, And Banfield. We'll put Banners as well.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on
Well,
those
you've just
three?
tipped me towards 2013 by putting Banners in there, mate.
All right. Well, Banners is the utility. He
He
can
is the
play everywhere.
utility.
He's a,
I know you love,
I love
and he does
Banners.
good things. I know he does good things, but I go. That is a tough one. Duffield was very good by foot. Hey, underrated. Love what he did. Sutcliffe was useful as a utility, so I would probably put Sutcliffe and Banners in like a utility category together, almost. And then who was the other one again? It was
Chappie.
Oh, Chappie versus.
Well, Chappie and Clark are in that three.
Chappie and Clark. Yeah, Clark's an upgrade, definitely. And Chappie's getting to that point. So versus Duffield, Sutcliffe, and
Duff could play on smalls and bigs, couldn't he?
Yeah.
He was very versatile.
Yeah, and Spur was when he came in like a hot rocket. Once he actually got a game, and then obviously as the time came on and he hit the cliff, it dropped off quickly. But around that time, he was very reliable, great mark, one-on-one defender was useful. That's tough. I think. Oh, gee, Clarkey,
All Australian.
I'm
Listener of the pod.
Yeah, he is. Look, I reckon I'm probably going to go with the 2025 on that one.
I'm taking 25 as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and your last one.
Yep.
The ruck combo. So you got Sandilands and Clark.
Yep.
V Jackson Darcy.
Ooh.
My
Okay.
thoughts also, I think, with the modern era, the way the game's evolved. So Jackson also probably more that running ruck,
Yep.
Around the ball now. But Sandlands dominated the stoppages.
Yeah, he did.
No one could get near him, and
No.
he put it on Fife's chest. So
Once
got
he
to
started
consider those things.
taking those bailout marks down the line, we were very good.
Mm.
And if you look at where Freo struggled under the line years, I remember Nat Nui put a knee through the back of Sandilands' ribs, relocated those ribs through to what is now Perth Modern College. That's how far the ribs were spread over the bloody. He just annihilated him. And then once Sandilands went down, we were cooked for the season. But Sandilands is an upgrade on the first ruck. However, Clark ended up being subbed in the grand final day. He got subbed for Neil, and I think if we had our time again, we'd probably be playing Lockie Neal more so than. And people think Lockie Neal, what did he do? But you got to remember, Lockie Neal was in his infincy of his
not
career.
Lockie Neal now.
He's not Lockie Neal
Dual
now,
Brownlow medalist.
but he was still bloody good as a young
he
attacker.
was still good.
I kind of put him in that Murphy Reed type category of how he impacted a forward line. It was pretty good.
Who are you taking?
I'm probably going to say I'm taking our ruck only because of the second ruck.
You're 25?
Yeah.
Okay.
Only because Sandilands was so dominant, and I would take him in a heartbeat if the backup ruckman could at least nullify, but he was comprehensively beaten. Unfortunately, on the day, Clark, that wasn't his best performance. He had some great performances in the lead up, but in the grand final, he had a bit of a stinker. I think the stats on this.
Who do you think would win in the ruck now?
Yep.
Fit Sandilands.
Yep.
V Jackson.
Sandilands over time would just the attrition. His body was so big at that time. I think Jacko would have the jump on him early, but
get
then
him around the ground, Jacko.
Yeah, and then if you get him around the ground, but I think over time the big body of Sandilands would just he doesn't get any smaller.
And it's also what the structure of the team is. If you got Sandilands in the ruck and you've got Fife and the bigger bodies, Mundy and Barlow, Crowley, like you're actually playing. You're winning 95% of the taps.
Yep.
So you're playing offensive in the middle, whereas. Probably with Jacko, you're playing more around the ground. He's that extra mid. Ruckman can't go with him. He's getting 25 plus touches. He's getting forward on you. He's tiring you out. He's a star as well.
We'll see. You've nailed it there. Because if I look at Clark's final performance there, he had 5 disposals. He had a mark, 3 tackles, and 8 hitouts. And if you look at either Sean Darcy or Jacko obviously did very well, but Sean Darcy's stats, what do you have? He had 12 disposals, 29 hit outs, 5 clearances, and then Jacko would have been higher than that on the disposal. Yeah, 18 disposals, 3 marks, 12 hit outs, 279 metres gained. So as a combination, I think they get up.
Yeah, it's very line ball for me. It's hard to pick one there.
Sandilands is just so dominant. He could almost
dominant.
If you actually took Clark out and just have Sandilands, I'm going Sandilands.
And the last question would be who would win if they played each other, but we're not, because the modern game's moved. It's quicker.
Yes.
It's more of a
It's
not keep you off because it's very physical still, and they're
You've got to keep
hits.
Ross Lyon in this as well.
Ross Lyon's coaching. 2013. And we've got Longy for the current team, obviously. So you've got all that, but you've got the factor in, the game's progressed 12 years on.
Yes.
There's, all the stoppage plays they do, or the back and forth running, everything that's evolved in the game. But you're playing with a fully fit 2013 side now. But in exact team there.
And same conditions?
Same conditions.
Okay, same conditions. So we're at the MCG. We're at same conditions. So it's grand final. 2013 Freo versus 2025 Freo. Same conditions, swirly. No one's able to kick for goal pre-game, all that sort of stuff. I think the wings absolutely carve up. Stephen Hill on that wing would probably rack up enough possessions to get leather poisoning. I also think the midfield has its way. Sandilands dominates, especially from second half onwards. I think 2025 probably has a nice jump. I do think Clarkey probably has close to 40 possessions with the amount of ball that's going to be coming in, because Ross Lyon loves the ball coming. Just repeat entries, mate.
It's all about defense too.
All about defense. So I think he's able to choke Fremantle's sort of ball movement. I think Tracy would become significant in that down the line option, which would normally be the bailout. Clarkey would be so important in that space. I just think the 2013 team would be able to handle it. Peak Nat 5.
Peak Nat 5.
Peak Nat 5. Sandilands, Mundy, Pav, Walters just starting to enter greatness.
Ballas, Main.
Ballas.
McFarlane, Johnson.
McFarlane. I mean, McFarlane was on like half a bloody Achilles at that stage, but still elite. Jono, elite.
Was he one of the earlier intercepting backmen?
I think so.
Like he would take a hang in the back line.
Yeah, I think so.
Started that trend.
I still remember when he went forward when we trialled him as a forward, and he took a couple of grabs. I said, "Who's this guy? Who's this guy?" Like just taking hangers, but such a great defender, nonchalant as well.
So you're backing in 13 to get the win?
I reckon Ross Lyon's coaching, so it ain't going to be a high score line. It could be something like 35 to 42 or something like that. It's
I also think the current list overall as a list might be better because, the players that add up, like even we spoke about Banners, who I think has got great flexibility to play in the forward line. He can play in the wing. He can play tagging in the midfield. He can play in the back line. He's got really good flexibility. And then you sort of compare it to the 2013 list. I think there's a section of players where you have the peak players like the Pavlich, as we touched on, McFarlane, Johnson, these absolute stars. But the whole list, I think the current list is better. But I think the top end might be a little bit better in 13.
Yeah, that's a fair analysis. I mean, that top end is that most of those that the top end players will be in the top end of our pantheon. When you look at Hill, Mundy, Sandilands, Johnson, McFarlane, obviously Demigod, Pav, Maney as a forward is right up there as a key forward in his importance. Huge. And then I think at our top end, if you look at the 2025 top end, in your opinion, who is the absolute cream to match the cream of 2013?
I think Hayden Young, Sarong and Brayshaw and Bolton, like a similar midfield. But I'd really like Tracy and what he's done. I'd like to see him keep going in another year and getting the 5 goals and 6 goals and still playing that really aggressive type of footy, which he is. So I think he's got a really high ceiling. And then you've got the guys in the back line, like they've got a pretty good setup down there with Cox, Pearce, Ryan, Banners, Chappie, Clark. Clark's got a bit of pace, making All-Australian. So there's some really good players. Murphy Reid, I think, has got a really high ceiling. I hope they don't bring him in the midfield. I know they talked about that and said, we'll throw him in the midfield. Yeah, you could, but just keep Bolton and hopefully Matt Johnson and players like that rolling through and keep Murphy Reid on the flank because he's dynamic. He's a smart footy player and he's good at creating goals, which is rare to create goals, not just kick goals.
Yes. Okay. I was just about to say, first of all, I'm a big fan of trying to add strings to bows. I get that. You increase your effectiveness and efficiency by doing so. But when you've got someone that just has the creativity of a Murphy Reid, and some of the stuff that he did in a phone box was just unbelievable, and his ability to handball. And I think Duck actually nailed it early on in the piece when we looked at the footage. He said he's got this knack with his handballs to put players into space.
He does.
And that transferred over from 18s to AFL. No one's doing the stuff
and
what he's
vision.
doing.
He can see things laterally that are going on, and he can understand the play two kicks ahead.
Yeah.
I'm going to kick it there on the side of my boot, but I'm going to run and get it back. Or like little idiosyncrasies that he's
so elite. According to this, you think Andrew McDougall, on record, believes the 2013 Freo Dockers takes the 2025 final team against Gold Coast. They win by a few goals?
One
goal?
One goal.
I think it's very close.
It's close. It's a really line ball, to be honest. Like, it could go either way.
What if Ross Lyon coaches the 2025 team and JL coaches and has a more free-flowing 2013 team?
Ooh. I think for me, winning football in general, this is a very blanket statement, but comes from the midfield. So if you're dominating the midfield, stoppages and clearances, you're getting the ball inside 50 a lot more times. There's more opportunity, but then you're obviously relying on the forwards to 1, convert, and 2, be able to spot each other up, and accuracy on kicks and little 5% changes here and there. But I think the midfield in 2013, Mundy, Barlow, Fife, Crowley, Neil coming through as a sub.
Yep.
With Sandilands.
Yep.
Hard to beat.
Yeah. I think so too. I don't think it really matters coaching wise when you've got elite talent. I think if you've got elite talent, you can't beat that. All right. So look, on that note, it's been an absolute pleasure to have the great man, Andrew McDougall, stop by to my humble abode and put up with my yapping 12-week-old puppy who showed some real fight and barking and then hiding behind me once he came inside, saw the size of the great man. But it's been an absolute pleasure to talk trade, draft, and what's upcoming. Like I said, Freo fans, get around it. This is our time to shine. This is where Fremantle fans come alight, if you will, because we know that the future is here. And we all know that we're going to be playing in a grand final next year, and it's just a case of whether or not we have any draft picks, rookies coming in who will be on that stage. So now I've got to figure out what I'm going to sell in order to get there, mate. So with that in mind, thanks for stopping by. Shout out to the great man, Duck. Hope all is well, mate, and looking forward to catching up with you soon for a more comprehensive look at our draft. We will do our same probably draft pod where we talk about that live, which was so much fun. Ironically, last time when we talked about Manny Johnson getting drafted live, it was so fun. So looking forward to doing that again. Thanks again for stopping by, mate. And any last words for our beloved Purple Rain listeners?
Oh, thanks for having me on, Oz. It's a pleasure, always a pleasure to catch up with you and be here. Thanks for having me to your humble abode. And also good luck to all the Freo fans out there. You guys, that 1 point loss, I felt like that should have been a win, but you would have kept on moving the train forward. And it doesn't seem to me like the club's too far off in terms of getting to that grand final and getting that success that Freo fans have been craving for a long time. So good luck for the year to all the Freo fans out there. My wife and her family, the 25 strong Croatian diehard Dockers fans that are out there too listening. So Good luck and thanks for having me on, Oz.
Fantastic. All right, guys. See you later.